All right, hello and welcome to the OzPower podcast. I'm Camo, or James. We're here with Pat, and to my right here, we're here with Gawain Johnstone. G, what's happening?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Pleasure, mate.
Let's get out.
To kick this off, G, just a bit of an introduction to yourself. You're coming off the back of a 1,000 kilo total at Pro Raw 9 at the Arnold's 2017. Where are you from? How did you get into lifting? Just give us a bit of a rundown how you started this.
I'm Australian born. My mother is of Filipino descent. My father was born here, but his parents migrated from Scotland, up near the north somewhere. Pretty standard sort of childhood. We went to the same college, which was amazing. The chance of that, I only recently found that out. And how to get into lifting was the second question?
Yep.
All right, so I actually started as an Olympic lifter.
Through dealer?
Through dealer, yeah.
Yep.
And
what age?
11, so year 7. So as you know, dealer have a pretty good lifting program going on, particularly with the young school boys, and bring them up and getting them ready for footy and things like that. So it just so happened to be at that particular time the Damien Brown happened to be teaching. So I was in the weight room, just sort of being a dick. Just thinking I knew what I was doing.
Classic way.
Standard me.
Classic.
Procrastinating near the lunchroom. Again, classic way. And Damo pulled me aside and was like, "You were coming to Hawthorn. You were come to training tonight." And I was like, "Okay," because it's pretty into me.
What is Hawthorn for people that don't know?
So Hawthorn back then, it still is.
Hawthorn Weightlifting.
Yeah, Hawthorn Weightlifting Centre. It's nothing like it used to be. Man, it used to be like the size of this room, like two of these rooms, and shonky platforms. The platforms were made out of like timber, and yeah, it was so small, run down.
So basically like a double car garage
size. It was. But that was the Olympic team. That was our Olympic lifting team was lifting out of there. And yeah, I developed a really good relationship with Damo, and I just started training and just. Well, I wouldn't say I was hooked, but I was always intrigued with strength sports. Given my heritage, with my father, the oldest form of settling an argument was who was the bigger man, who was the better man. We'd either duke it out or throw the bigger stone or
Highland Games.
Yeah, Highland Games sort of stuff, or we'd fight.
Yeah.
We'd fight to death, and that sort of thing. So that had always sort of appealed to me, in the back of my head, but further on the track, and yeah, I started going down there twice a week and getting coached, and I was just blessed to have the Olympic level coaching.
By Damien Brown, you getting coached?
Well, not Damo. Damo was still teaching full time, and I think he was developing a business at the time. So I was actually coached by gold medalist Sevdalin Marinov, who won a gold medal at like 21 years old for Bulgaria, and he was just a freak. I remember him like he was like 5'4", 5'5", and I remember once he'd spend so much time looking after me that he would do his workouts or whatever sort of workouts he was still doing at the time and be watching over me at the same time. I remember once I was obviously the young punk, so I'd have to train on the shittiest equipment that they had, the shittiest platforms, and plus I was obviously also the weakest, so 5 kilo plates, that sort of thing, blocks to pull from, that sort of thing. And he was, I remember, on the big guy, the real important people sort of platform. To my left was like Corin Hocking, Yurik Sarkisian, Simon Heffernan, who was also a silver medalist or an ex-DLR boy as well, a silver medalist or a bronze medalist at the Commonwealth Games. He has a gym out in Baldwin, I think. And I would just watch those guys, and he would Chevy would sort of work in with them every now and then. I remember him taking out like 200 kilos cold and just walking and turning around just to watch me squat it and put it back and continue to coach me. So he was a fucking freak.
It's like, watch this cutie pie.
Yeah, cutie. Yeah, good job. Yeah. Good job with your 50 kilo. Yeah, good job with your 50 kilo snatches. And I don't know, at the time, 2 sessions turned into 3 sessions, 3 sessions turned into 5 days a week. And and that's how it sort of that the beginning of my lifting sort of started. And I did that for 2 years, two and a half years, and I was only a 12-year-old kid, and I still wanted to play with my friends instead of lifting, having 5 lifting sessions or 10 lifting sessions, which is what Sebi wanted me to have. And I just couldn't be bothered. Like, I wanted to play footy, I wanted to play cricket, I wanted to play basketball, and play video games with my mates and stuff. So, I developed some really small injuries, just little small wrist and joint sort of stuff. But, I look back on the amount of volume that I was training. It's just an insane amount of volume. Cleaning, front squatting, back squatting, power cleans, full clean and jerks, power snatch, every single type of pull, and then 3 or 4 by 12 every day. And then build into a comp. So did that.
Were you doing most of your sessions on your own, or were you being technique coached every session?
Well, at the very beginning, Sevi basically was standing over me the whole time.
Yeah.
But after a while,
get proficient. They let you just.
Yeah, he could
work.
Exactly, and plus, he was getting closer to world championships and stuff like that. He'd have to begin to sort of step away.
Focus.
Yeah, and look, my technique got better because it's just something I'm natural at. It's like kicking a footy. Guys who are good athletes can just learn.
Yeah.
They can shoot a basketball or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
They just have that ability to build proprioception. And look, I did that for 2.5 years and gave it away, which. I look back and I thought, well, maybe I could have made an Australian team. If I really, really wanted to, I would have made an Australian team. Mm-hmm. But didn't really do anything until I was about 20, first year at uni. And then just started lifting weights, wanted to put on some muscle and lose some, get into shape. And then I got really, really sick at one stage when I was about... when I was 24, when I was 23, 24, I got really sick. So my father had colon cancer, and I began to show signs of that as well. And just as a precaution, was in and out of hospital for a good sort of 3 to 5 months, and all the muscle I built just went because it was just so much stress and so much cortisol and things like that. And then during that time, I met Mike Britton. Mike Britton had a team of kids and a team of guys that were lifting with him, and he was a well-renowned coach within both the Olympic lifting and powerlifting. And I began to develop a relationship with Mike, and I said to him, and he thought I was joking because I told him this story just after we had dinner, just after I totaled 1,000. I was feeling so shit and so sick and so down and so run down from all the hospital stuff. And I said to him, because I was working at Bodyworld at the time, and he was like, we were just chatting, and I was like, Mark, I'm going to do a powerlifting comp one day. As soon as I'm better, I'm going to do a powerlifting comp with you one day. And he was just like, oh yeah, sure boy, no problem. We'll do that. And I was like, no. I'm going to do it. And he's like, okay, cool. And then, I got better, and I'd already made up my mind. And I think January 2008 or 9, 2009, January. I think it was March 2009 was the first competition I ever did, which was the state championships. I remember I started prepping in towards the end of January, so it was a very short prep, and that's how I got started.
And Mike, I know you do all your own programming, but Mike still oversees or signs off on a lot of your lifts, a lot of your attempts, a lot of your training.
Back then, he did everything.
No, but now.
Now it's a different sort of relationship. Now it's always
more just an objective opinion because he's watched your whole.
Yeah. There are points in my prep where I begin to sort of not necessarily second guess myself, but question a few things. Am I getting a little bit too far ahead of myself? I try to be as humble with my numbers as possible. I cop a lot of flack for things that the numbers look too easy, my reps look too easy. But the reality is, there's a reason why I'm trying to make them look easy. Yeah. But they're actually not. Yeah. And if things are going well, I'll always just pick his brain. But it's not so much a number. It's more of a philosophical sort of I speak to him for the mental application more than anything else.
Yeah.
You know, long preps when you get to this level is kind of mentally taxing, you know, almost as much as physically taxing.
Yeah.
So, you know, people have a variety of different things that they use to keep them going, and you know, Mike was always in my ear.
Yeah.
You know, particularly when I started. But you know, if I begin to feel like I'm not going the way I should be going, or I just need to just a wee bit of reassurance, and that's what their relationship is. And we'll just check in every now and then just to make sure I'm not being a dick. So
Yeah. Cool. So to summarise, Melbourne boy, lifting since 11, powerlifting 10 years?
So damn, I'm not that old.
So well, you are.
I'm not.
You actually are. If you started at 11, that's 20 years, mate.
Well, I wasn't lifting. If you were listening,
I wasn't.
I wasn't lifting.
I zoned out real early.
So did I. I just began to ramble. So I didn't Olympic lifting for 2 years. I didn't train up until I was 21.
Right.
Did a couple of years in the uni gym, and then 24 to 26 was powerlifting.
Right.
And then I took a 2 year break.
Yeah.
And then came back 28, 29, something like that.
Okay.
Can we just touch on the break? Because that's something I was going to ask you about. So, partway through this whole powerlifting journey, you discovered you were pretty handy at gridiron and took some time off to try and make the NFL.
I didn't.
Pretty handy at being a brick wall.
Yeah. Well, the how it happened is that number one, I'm very, very lucky, and number two, I can move a lot of weight really, really quick. So, you know, the years and years of you know, that power production sort of space when I was younger, and obviously just genetics and things like that as well, enabled me the opportunity to obviously go to the US. So I can move a lot of weight really, really, really fast, as everyone knows, but I can also move my own body really, really fast. And you know, I was approached by a colleague at the time who was an ex-NFL player, who passed on my videos and things like that to another, his father, who was in the media out in Michigan, and it literally just spread like wildfire
So
after that.
lifting videos or videos?
Yeah, lifting
of you
videos.
Sprinting, or did you have any interest in gridiron at all? Were you trying to train for it? Were you doing footwork drills, or did they literally just look at your powerlifting and go, this dude's strong as shit?
Well, it literally started with them watching my lifting stuff and then going, wow, that dude's really explosive.
What can you do?
Can he move?
Right.
Because at the time I was probably 177, 180 kilos at the time, which was after 2011 Nationals. But can he move?
Right.
And with no.
So 177, 180 kilos, nearly 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And you're 6'2"?
6'2",
Yeah, so 6'2", 400 pounds, very strong,
Fast.
almost textbook lineman for
probably at that time,
Right.
definitely at that time. Whereas the requisite for lines was a little bit different now.
Yeah.
And look, you know, after that, I know scouts sent back information that they wanted to see. NFL scouts wanted to see me move, and we just sent them film, and they were like, "Holy crap!" And then the Lions got a hold of it.
So what were your times?
Oh, with no training, running training, I think I ran at the time. I ran a 10-yard in like 2 seconds or something, well, just below 2 seconds.
So you played defensive line?
I played nose tackle.
So what would be the average in the NFL for someone at your position? What would be considered draftable or interesting to scouts?
Yeah, well, anything below 2.
Yeah.
The elite of the elite are obviously between sort of 1.6, well, 1.6 and a half, 1.7. They're like guys that are like high first rounders. You know, your Haloti Nadas and Dontari Pros. They're the guys that sort of run those sort of times, and they're freaks.
Untrained, you were running 2s.
Yeah.
So you were pretty much on the mark, obviously fractionally slower than the elite.
Yeah.
With no training.
Yeah, exactly right.
And the same size, the same...
Well, I was heavier and bigger and... not taller, but I was heavier and a bigger body and stronger.
Right.
Have you still got those videos of you running?
Oh, man, I'd have to ask.
Somewhere. I
I'm
saw
sure they're on
them a
YouTube
couple
somewhere.
of years ago. We found them.
The first ones?
I remember very clearly sitting in the gym watching
Creep.
your like, I don't know if it was the combine trial footage or if it was just at the combine facility.
Yeah.
But it was definitely
Some sprint work, right?
It was definitely within a combine setting.
That would have been in Michigan. I would have been in Michigan.
It was most likely at D1.
Yeah.
And I remember very clearly watching your
running stuff.
If they're not up on YouTube still, I'm pretty sure they are, because I think I pulled them out a little while ago. We'll make sure they get up, because if anyone watching, it's pretty. It's full on. When you think of a 400-pound man, and you see you move the way that you do, it's pretty shocking. Like, it's breathtaking.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to wrap your head around, but it makes perfect sense when you consider the weight that you move.
Yeah, well,
like, if you can squat 400 kilos with the speed that he squats 400 kilos, and then you take that bar away.
Yep.
There's a hell of a lot of power there.
Yeah, and that was the idea. To harness that power with technique, and just try to when I went over there, I was in the US for nearly 2 years, and we were trying to fit a lifetime of work within 2 years with no money. So that was that journey.
Hard.
Yeah.
And the spot you're competing for is against guys that have been training for this their whole life.
Yeah, their whole life, and it's also probably a spot that not every team uses. It's got to be a specific schematic defense for me to fit into that. Generally speaking, a 3-4 defense is where I'd fit, but if you're a lighter guy, you can play a 4-3 or whatever it is, and you move around. So
cool.
Next one, mate. What keeps you going, and what makes you tick? I mean, what is that internal driver that keeps you going through a tough prep or tough comp? What gets you through?
The goal at the end. I mean, I'd set myself a goal when I got back from the US, and I haven't stopped since then. I'm happy to admit that I was a comp off where I thought I would be, which is okay, but it's the end goal, and I had
also had a minor setback.
With the tricep,
fairly major, but
with the tricep tear.
Yeah, minor.
Yeah, maybe I would have done it earlier. I should have done it earlier.
Should have done it, definitely.
What a dickhead.
No, but yes, you are a dickhead.
Yeah,
but
thank you.
You're welcome. But when you look at like big dogs, the first big dogs, you total 980 with 190.
Yeah.
980? 95?
No, 980.
980, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, 980. With a 190 kilo bench.
Yep.
That's like pretty ridiculous.
Yep.
When you consider that, you compete as a super heavy. The heaviest bench we saw that day was 250 to 260 maybe.
Something like that. I think I know bench 255.
I know for sure Andre did 250, but I don't know if anyone went more than that.
No, Andre did 255.
Either way, you're 60 kilos off the pace on your bench, and only 20 kilos off a 1,000 kilo total.
Yep. They finished fourth at that comp, right?
Yep.
So you exclude that tricep injury, and you're there.
Yeah, it's only now that I'm back.
You're playing catch up.
Yeah, well, it's only now that I'm playing catch up. Still am, but it's only now that I'm being able to begin to sort of get close to those numbers again. It's a bit frustrating, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So Big Dogs won October, November last year, somewhere around there.
October last year.
So you had essentially had a 5-month prep. You've total 980 at Big Dogs 1.
Yep.
Around a 5-month prep pro war that we've just seen.
Yep.
Yeah. Pro at the Arnolds. Yeah.
I want to know a little bit around the thought process there. So you total 980. It's fantastic. First time you squatted 400 in comp, right? Mm-hmm. Where to from there? Like, you've got a comp in 5 months' time. Mm-hmm. How do you program? How do you plan it? How do you set your goals for the next comp?
Yeah, okay. So I squatted 420 at Big Dogs. But I felt like it's exactly what Pat said. I felt that I still had a lot in the tank, and I did 980 on a bad day. And I was really sick leading into that prep as well. So I feel like I didn't leave everything on the platform.
You even said on that day in your warm-ups for your squats, it's
not
there today.
Yeah,
you said that very early. And what we should also make a mention of is the fact that you squatted 420 after a shit 410 second attempt, where going for anyone, you can watch the footage, it's out there, but he goes to unrack the bar and it gets caught on the mono as they try to open the gate. So he spends an extra 15 seconds with whatever it is, it doesn't matter, probably seems like an eternity, but a long time with 410 on your back, that's a hell of a lot of weight to be standing there with, and it certainly takes it out of you for your third at 420. So
I was lucky
on a day where you are sick and like I said, you're warming up, you're saying it's not really there, you're not really popping the way you normally would. To hit 420 is pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yeah, look, there are a lot of positives that I took away from that. Positives that I took from that meeting. A lot of things that, I took a mental note as we were going throughout the day. I knew I would have to utilise going to and better in my next prep, and that's exactly what I did. So.
So it's just that continuous journey for you to keep getting better. There's not a number in sight. You've totaled 980. I know you wanted to total 1,000 at that comp.
We should also just say at Pro Raw, you totaled 1,000, but you totaled 1,000 with a squat that wasn't as big as Big Dog.
Yeah.
So you squatted 415 at Pro Raw.
Yeah.
Missed the 432, which is unfortunate, but it happens.
Thank you for bringing it up.
You're welcome.
I will watch it later, mate. Don't worry.
This is why we're here.
I'm sure the views are coming up.
But you go from 420 at Big Dogs to 415 at Pro Raw, looking for more.
Yeah.
And yet still, because you added 2.5 kilos to your deadlift from Pro Raw, pulled 372.5. From Big Dogs.
Yep.
Pulled 372.5. You squatted 415, so that was down 5.
Yep.
But then you added 22.5 to your bench.
Yep.
So
in 5 months.
The bench is where you're picking it up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So those mental notes, they worked.
That's right.
I want to get candid for a second. You can tell me to get stuffed if you want.
Stuffed.
You fucking want, mate. The squat record.
Yep.
Did that ever come into consideration in your programming?
No.
Sort that out?
No, I never, ever chase records.
So,
the only thing I'm chasing is bettering my total.
It only came into play after your second at Pro Raw.
Yeah, I thought about it.
You squatted the 415 in front of Arnold, and it was a fucking flame show. Like it was so quick.
Yeah.
And stepped off the platform and went,
we got this.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
We originally called 435, and then reconsidered and went, no, the record's 430. Just go 432 and just beat it.
And it was just unlucky.
Yeah.
Misgrooved it. There was one or two guys that pulled out of the flight, so my rest was the same.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It should have been within me, and I ballsed it. So.
Also, you've just squatted 415 and what was it, 380 before it?
Yep.
You haven't done 380.
Yep.
Yeah. So fresh, different conditions.
Yeah.
It's there.
But yeah, that's our sport.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's roll into how you prepared. So, touched on Big Dogs, 5-month turnaround to Pro Raw 9.
Yeah.
How do you do your programming? Do you start with the end goal in mind and work backwards? Do you use percentages?
No, look, I come for that specific prep or just in general.
Both. Give this specific one and then go in general. Do you work back from a number, or do you just try to be better than last prep?
This prep was a little different because it was really rushed. The prep before it was a better prep, which makes sense considering the amount of time that I had. But with that being said, I only missed one rep in this entire prep, so I shouldn't miss. I pride myself on being perfect with my training work. I think missing one rep's actually as close to perfect as I could possibly get. In regards to how I handle it, look, I'm kind of, like I said, Mike doesn't set me my numbers or anything like that anymore. My stuff's kind of percentage based, but I know what I'm capable of now, so I don't really sort of base it off that. I really do just base it off speed.
Cool.
How things fast move, the quality of the work. Depending on what sort of equipment that I'm using at the time, how deep I'm in the prep, and that sort of thing. So, and I know, from experience, when it's time to go, plan because obviously you plan backwards. I plan backwards. I'm looking to either increase the weight, add tonnage, increase the volume. That way we can obviously go up. We don't have to necessarily go after numbers. We can just go after quality.
Yeah, cool.
Can I add something to that? So, with the programming stuff, a lot of the time people chase a number and work backwards, right? So you go, I want to squat X amount of weight by the end, work backwards in percentage to do your reps. Your prep wasn't really like that so much. It was more about, because it was a little bit rushed, it was more so like, be a little bit better than last time. Mm-hmm. Like last time it was a 390 double. Yep. All right, this time it's double 400. Okay. So it was kind of not so regular.
And I fucked it up.
Yeah, but...
And I fucked it up. I missed a week. I was like, fuck, I've missed a week.
We ran out of time.
Oh, boy. Let's shit together, coach.
But yeah, it was more, like you said, it was more about being perfect, but being a little bit better than last time.
Yeah.
And as opposed to, because everyone was looking at it, and there was a lot of talk leading up to it that there was a chance that he was going to squat the Australian record. So everyone would have thought that he would have gone, the Australian record is 430, let's program for 435 or 440 or whatever it is, whatever's within his realm, and work backwards from that. But it actually wasn't like that. It wasn't about chasing the number. It was about being a little bit better than the last prep. And if you're a little bit better than the last prep and everything's perfect, or as good as possible, then that end goal will be there.
Exactly right.
And like I mentioned before, it's all about getting that total moving. It's just keeping
A great man once said that you don't have to necessarily just continue to add weight, heaps and heaps of weights all the time. You just need to add a little bit of weight, every now and then, just be a little bit better, each comp be a little bit better, and then eventually it'll accumulate and, you'll have a really big total.
Yeah.
So that was Ed Cohn, so
pretty great, man.
He's all right.
He's a dickhead. Ed, if you listen to this, you dickhead.
Sing the boots in while you can while he's
That's how he greets me, so fuck that guy.
He's going to throat punch me when he sees me now.
Recovery, obviously, when you're putting that amount of weight on your back and pulling that amount of weight, there's a lot of recovery that goes into it to make sure you're ready for your next session and ready for the comp. What do you do?
I was lucky this time that we got hooked up with P3 out in Berwick, which is great. I do a lot of sort of myofascial work outside of the gym, just rolling and things like that, sticking at home. But look, other than that, there's nothing fancy. Just contrast training. No
massage.
Some massage. Even this time, I didn't have a whole lot of massage, but I attribute my I'm going to say lack of requisite for massages. I attribute it to the execution of my training and the quality of my training, the quality in my technique. If everything's firing properly, obviously after a while there's only so much the body can take, but you shouldn't need to be, getting into daily, weekly, bi-week two massages a week and things like that. Mm-hmm. Unless you really need to. If you really need to, there's obviously a problem there.
Yeah, but prevent it as much as you can.
Yeah, obviously eating enough food, but like I said, I think a lot this time in particular was attributed to a lot of contrast training and obviously upping that sort of upping that sort of output.
Yeah, cool. Next thing we got down here is DEXA scans. So you went and got the DEXA post Big Dogs, and then another one just prior to Pro Raw. Is that right?
Yes.
So you're always kind of monitoring that level as well. Do you want to see the composition, the changes, make sure that what you're growing is quality?
I mean, I've always the goal from when I came back when Pat and I sat down was that we're going to. Every time we compete, we're going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit leaner, a little bit more efficient, and that's from that aspect of things is what we've done.
Yeah,
and then the next time I compete, I've got a longer break, so I expect to be a little bit better, a little bit leaner, and more efficient again. And then every time that we compete again after that, that is the goal. On top of because that goes hand in hand with being a better lifter. The more muscle I have, the more weight by definition I should be able to lift. Right. So And also, it comes down to just also being somewhat healthy, because although what I'm doing getting ready to compete and competing on those days is far from healthy and highly, highly dangerous at times, we have a health mindset going into each prep.
Yeah, and that you made a good point there. In the last couple of years, the focus has never been the next comp. Like obviously you never want to look past a comp and you're planning for a comp, but G's very realistic in that it's always like you want to do big things in a year, you want to do big things in 2 years, and you want to be healthy enough that in 2 years you can do that rather than go balls out and crash at your first comp. So
you see so much of that as well, and that's what's the problem with our sport. You see guys come and go so quickly. Ed used to say the same thing to me all the time: is that you see guys come in, they're fucking strong and big and muscular and things like that, but they're gone in a year or gone in 2 years because You know, they put their bodies through so much so quickly. There's no science. There's no sense behind it. You know, it's just a flash of the pan stuff.
Yeah.
People don't remember your fucking name. You've done this for a year, done this for 2 years.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers Ed Cohn and guys like that because he did it.
Backed it up.
Yeah, he backed it up over and over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But the other benefit with the DEXA, aside from obviously tracking where he's going, is that it gives us a realistic figure of how much muscle mass he's actually carrying, which means we can then base his nutrition around it.
Well,
so we can work out calories, we know what he needs, we can make minor adjustments, again, so that in 2 years' time, I mean, if you look at the photos or videos from comps, you know, or even just training or whatever from a couple of years ago to now, G is around the same comp weight, but remarkably different.
Yeah,
like you would almost assume it was two different people. Like he's a hell of a lot more muscular now, and looks a hell of a lot more athletic, even though his weight hasn't necessarily changed. I mean, it changes through the off season, of course, but again, minor changes yield big results in the end. So.
And whilst we're on this topic, nutrition, obviously, eating for recovery and just eating to fuel your training and what have you. And Pat, this is probably a good one to ask you because you handle G and you have a lot to do with his nutritional planning and stuff like that.
Yep.
How do you approach that stuff?
So again, just with the DEXA, it's a good way for us to get a realistic understanding of his muscle mass.
Yep.
Then we know how many calories he needs to maintain the muscle mass that he's carrying. And then that gives us are you taking photos?
no.
Creep. That gives us the chance to make those adjustments. So right now, it's kind of an off season in that he's not preparing yet for big dogs. He's just had Pro Raw, so now is the time where we make those adjustments, lose a little bit of body fat, which then allows for the calories to ramp up when it's time to actually come into comp.
Yeah, cool.
And start adding the muscle mass and that sort of thing. So
all that DEXA data just proves invaluable to do the nutrition planning as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue all day whether the numbers are accurate. So obviously, for anyone that hasn't done a DEXA, it tells you your lean muscle mass, it tells you what your body fat percentage is, it tells you all that sort of stuff. It gives you, scanning images of your, skeletal system and that sort of thing. Whether those numbers are accurate, whether he is X amount of body fat, whether he's carrying X amount of muscle is pretty much irrelevant. What's relevant is that it's consistently tested on the same machine, so we know we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, cool.
And that's all that matters. And that is what's been happening. His muscle mass has been going up, his composition's getting better. I mean, most of the time we don't even necessarily weigh G. Like we'll kind of weigh him every now and then, and it's more just as a joke because we'll.
Thanks, guys.
Like leading into Pro Raw, if anyone watched the live feeds and stuff, there was a point, and I think it was in the live feed, where G went to weigh himself, and the people that were there to watch his 400 double squat, or was it the 400 or was it the 380 or anyway, what doesn't matter.
I think it was when I benched 180 for 5.
I think it was a squat day, but anyway, it doesn't matter. People were guessing what his weight was going to be. That's really the only time that we check it. It's more that we sight by eye. We know roughly what his weight's going to be. Cool. We don't need to. He's a super heavyweight. We don't need to stress so much about, has he dropped a kilo? Is he on par to make weight? He doesn't need to make weight. Yeah. He needs to be healthy. He needs to feel good.
He needs to feel strong.
Exactly. But at the moment, G's on about 5,000 calories. 50% of that's protein, 30% of it's fat, and 20%'s carbohydrates. So it's fairly lean. It's good. There's obviously 5,000 calories is heaps. He's got plenty of energy to train. He's not really pushing heavy at the moment. It's more about hypertrophy. So add a bit more muscle mass. Change the composition a little bit. And then when are you going to start prepping for your comp? A couple months.
July.
Yeah.
And when is Big Dogs
August, September,
October,
isn't it again?
Yeah, mid-October. So, in a couple of months when he starts actually prepping for comp, we'll change it up again, throw some more carbs in there so he's got some energy for his training sessions. And, the focus will obviously just shift from the composition more towards his performance.
Yeah, cool.
So, we don't, there's no point, as I say, G's not trying to make a weight class, so there's no point in going into massive calorie restriction. All we've got to do is just manipulate a little bit.
Yeah, cool.
Make those slow changes, and
One last one before we move on to a bit of a review of Pro Raw 9. Sleep issues now. I saw it firsthand, better mate. This prep early on in the piece, you were struggling with sleep.
Oh, it sucked.
Yeah, and it was knocking you around a fair bit.
Yeah.
You were making all your lifts, but
Yeah.
afterwards...
Just the recovery was hard. Yeah, it's something I've dealt with for a long, long time, and it kind of just got to the point where it was really affecting my health. You hear and read so many things about particularly heavier and bigger guys having sleep issues on a daily basis, and like I said, it just began to become too much of an issue for me, and I need to go get it sorted. And I think about 3 weeks out, 3 or 4 weeks out, I approached my doctor about it, and she got me hooked up with a really good respiratory doctor, and we got hooked up with the CPAP, and I've never felt better. So you could see, leading up to in my prep, how fucking tired I was and exhausted, and even going to work and things like that, because my job's not super difficult. I'm a banker, but like I have to be somewhat switched on, given the fact that I'm dealing with numbers and stuff. But yeah, it just fucked me around and knocked me around so badly, for such a long time. And look, the one thing that I do really look forward to is particularly this big hypertrophy block, and then actually doing a prep with actually having sleep, and actually being able to recover properly. And it's probably something that triggered probably the last 2 weeks of Big Dogs, where my sleep was just, oh man, it was a disgrace. I think I was waking up. I was telling Pat I was waking up anywhere like 10 times a night, and like just feeling so ill.
Yeah, I was getting text messages from
like 4 o'clock in the morning, like, bro, I'm gonna fucking die.
Yeah.
And my friend at the time was like, she was like, man, you need to go to the fucking doctor. Trying to get me to go to the doctor, but I'm stubborn as fuck. So
explain what the CPAP does. Explain like the apneas and the numbers. So that shit's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, it's not when you talk to Ed, because when you talk to Ed, Ed's gonna beat me at fucking everything. Fucking cunt.
I'm a worse sleeper than you.
You think you got it hard? I got it hard. Yeah, asshole. So the sleep apnea that was happening is essentially the nasal and throat passages would close at night, and you'd stop breathing, and then it'd open up when you take a massive deep breath, when you realise that you're choking, and you don't fall in because of that. You actually don't fall into a deep enough sleep to actually properly recover. So waking up 10 times to a dozen times a night and not falling into deep enough sleep, the recovery was zilch. Right? Even Max was like, when I was explaining this to him, he was like, "How have you competed for so long and had no sleep?" And I was just like, just fucking push through, mate.
So what were the numbers with the
so I had an average of 113 apneas per hour.
So 113 blockages where your airway is literally
locked up. Restricted per hour. And Ed was like double that.
Yeah. And what did it go down to with the CPAP?
Look, the healthy range, the range that the respiratory specialists try to get you to, is anything under 4.2 or 4.3. So I check it every morning, when I wake up, and I'm in like 2 to 3 per hour. So and the weirdest part is actually sleeping deep enough that you actually have dreams again, which is weird, and not feeling so groggy and refreshed.
Just quickly before we move on, you just mentioned Max.
Yeah.
So Max obviously isn't here. Didn't want to do it.
He can get fucked.
Do you want to explain who Max is?
He's a pussy. That's who he is.
Okay.
And he will be reminded of this for the rest of his life.
Right. That's it?
That's it. No, Max is... Max.
So should I do this since I'm nicer than you, clearly?
No, that's not the point. The point is, you fucking listen to me, that's why. No, Max basically is my go-to guy. I wouldn't necessarily say that he does all my numbers, but he looks over all my training. And I lean on him like a coach. I lean on him for if I have any issues, or if I need to quickly check myself. It's a little too heavy. Ooh, how am I looking? How that speedster look? Was I out of position? That sort of stuff. So, and he picks my number. He doesn't pick my number. He picked my numbers from my bench, which was great. And he probably shat himself when I was like on comp day. And I was like, so you're picking my bench numbers because I'm freaking the fuck out. But no.
So Max obviously is Max Markopoulos. Yeah, PTC HQ coach.
That idiot. Yeah.
Right. Cleared that up because you just assume everyone knows.
He knows.
All right, now what I want to move on to, you set that up for us, mate. We've got a bit of a review. I think it goes for about 10-12 minutes and we'll skip through bits and pieces when we can. This is our Pro Raw 9 review, so what we're going to get you to do, mate, is pretty much go through all the lifts, and I want to hear you talk us through them.
Sure.
Give me 1 second.
I know from a personal perspective, the types of things that intrigue me are setting your openers, your mindset, approaching the bar, your focus.
It's such a question that's always asked. Okay.
We'll get to that because we should cover some of the stuff that happened yesterday with
workshops.
The workshop. So yesterday G had a squat workshop that he put on down in Footscray
at Melbourne Fit Performance.
Melbourne Fit Performance, there you go. And that was obviously one of their focus questions as well during the workshop.
Okay.
What do you think about how do you prep for a big lift?
Yeah, it's just because people don't go.
Well, people don't do it, so
people don't understand.
They
It
don't
just
understand,
makes sense.
exactly.
Do you want to just press play?
So hit play. So what do you want him to do?
This is a 432.
What? That should be the start of the video. Just hit play.
It'll skip back.
We'll
see your head.
Oh boy.
So what do you want him to?
Honestly, I just want to review. Review the lifts. So
what's going on? What are you thinking? Why did you pick the attempts you picked, judging by how the first one went, etc.?
Okay.
Just give the behind the scenes, I guess. Yeah.
So you opened with 380, right?
Yeah.
380 was the first squat.
Yeah.
Why 380?
I knew it was well beneath.
So when you approach a comp, because I reckon this is an important part, especially for novice lifters and beginner powerlifters that want to enter their first meet and stuff like that.
We'll try, when I edit this footage, we'll try to throw that up on the screen so that you can kind of run along with it. Maybe turn that volume off. There's volumes on the top, but otherwise just mute it. On the actual top. So you've got screen lock and then 2 volume.
Do you even Asian?
No, bro. I'm fucking half Asian, alright? That's what I was looking at. There you go.
Press play. There you go, precious.
Thank you, Pumpkin.
Very good.
That's a bit weird. Big safe hands of spirits behind me. So I'm always setting, particularly with my openers, I'm always setting a number that I know I could do for 5 reps. So it's really just get a lift in, and then we just base it off there. You know, I'm feeling my warm ups and listening to that. That bar's really not locked.
Yeah, so there you go. Critique your lift.
It's pretty fast, but that bar's not.
So bar's not locked. Upper back tightness.
I need to move that bar. And that's one thing I'm going to do, particularly for this next prep, is that I'm just going to adjust where the bar sits on my back, and I can be a little bit tighter, a little bit more efficient.
That's one thing that the comp ed Cohen said as well. He actually came across and said, because they ran a training workshop at PTC HQ just after Pro Raw, and he came across and he spoke to me just after G totaled 1,000, just after he pulled for 1,000, but he also said it to G on the day to come to the workshop and work on that tightness. So that was something Ed picked.
Yeah.
Which, when Ed tells you to change something in your technique, you listen.
Nah, fuck Ed. Not the boss of me.
Where are you at now? I know that.
Just 415 Arnold.
Okay, 415. All right, I want to ask you a question about this intro, because this is chaos, man. I'm sitting in the crowd here. I'm doing some filming for you.
Yeah.
And people went batshit crazy. And all of a sudden, you've got this quiet, civil crowd sitting there respecting what the lifters are doing in your fucking face with 60 cameras a foot away from your head when you're about to squat 415.
The entire Arnold's,
everyone
that was at the Arnold's was
plus Arnold's Snapchatting, plus his security team and Tony Doherty and everyone involved in the Arnold. What's going through your head?
It's funny now in retrospect because you don't get to see it, but I was wrapping my wrists And I remember looking into the crowd and just thinking, lol. it's 4:15.
Relax, guys.
Calm down. Right? Y'all making a big deal out of nothing right now. But I better do this. I'm going to fuck this up in front of Arnold.
What's funny is Emad came over to Max and I, and we didn't include G in this.
Who's Emad, first of all? Clarify for people that don't know. I'm pretty sure everyone that's watching this is going to know.
Knows who Emad is.
Yeah.
So Emad obviously puts on, or with Marcus, puts on Pro Raw.
And Big Dogs.
So Emad came over to us and said, while Marcus was organising, like the guys that were refereeing and that sort of thing, and the scorers table with Sean, Emad was kind of going between the DJ, working out people's music, and just making sure that everything was good. And Emad came to us and said, "I've just got a phone call from Arnold's support crew. Arnold's coming through, because Arnold does this at the Expo on each day. He'll walk through the arena and photo ops and that sort of thing." And Emad came to us and said, "Arnold's coming through. We're going to try to time it for G's third lift, because
Thank God they didn't.
yeah, thank fuck for that, because they knew that he was."
Actually, if they did,
You probably would have got it.
I would have got.
You probably would have got
Now,
it.
fuck the. I would have. May have got it, right?
Right.
But I would have had more time to recover,
Yeah, you
because
would
they would have been like, "Nah, let Arnold through." Blah 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 blah.
So that was what happened anyway, was that they came to us and said, Jesus Christ, it's like working with fucking shit.
Language.
So
Lord's name.
Emad's come to us and said, "We've got a call from Arnold's crew. Arnie's coming through. We're going to try to time it for G's third attempt, because we know that he's going to be having a crack at the Australian record, right? So 4:32 and a half, at least."
We did?
4:30. He did have a crack. We're looking at roughly this time. Take your time, right? So G's...
no fucking problem.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
exactly. So G's looking at opening with... This is before he's even taken his first lift. We're warming up out the back on the mono, and they come over, and I went to Sean at the scores table and I said, "All right, how long roughly does it take per flight, right? So we've got the super heavies. How long is it going to take us to get to the third squat? Obviously G's is going to be the heaviest. How long is it going to take from the start of the squatting till G takes his third attempt, so we can plan around this, so we can warm up?" Sean says about 45 minutes. So we're like, okay, we got 45 minutes. We'll take our time with these warm-ups, and they're saying to us, drag it out a little bit. So normally, you're wrapping knees, two guys out, G?
Yeah,
two to three guys out. So we're constantly watching the scoreboard update to see who is 2 or 3 lifters ahead of G. Mm-hmm. So we're watching that. On this occasion, they wanted us to take our time. So we were wrapping knees as the guy before G was walking up.
Okay.
So we're like, fuck it, there's no timer. Normally there's a minute timer. Normally you've got a minute to get to the platform.
Okay.
Because they try to keep it scheduled, right? On this occasion, they're like, don't worry about that. There's no timer. Take your time. Just do your thing. So we're Max is wrapping G's knees up. We're wrapping his knees up. One lifter out. Then they come through and go, Arnie was going to come through early. Fuck it. Don't worry about it. Just do your thing. Go whenever you want. So we kind of went, all right, cool, no worries. So we let G know and went, look, this was going to happen. It's not happening anymore. We didn't tell you because we didn't want you to have that thought in the back of your head. Just concentrate on what you got to do.
I do not remember this.
You probably don't. You don't listen in general anyway.
I don't listen to you.
It's true, he doesn't. So, that was going to happen. It hasn't. Whatever. Just do your thing. When you're ready, we'll go by your time. They said there's no rush. Let's just do whatever. And then it just so happened that Arnie rocked up. Perfect timing to see his second lift. So I think he rocked up for Arta's. Yeah. So he saw Arta's first, and then he saw G. So which is kind of cool because Arnie was there when G squatted 400 the previous year at Pro Raw.
Yeah.
So it was 15 kilos up from what he squatted in front of Arnold, but a long way from his PB, obviously. But it was good that Arnie got there when he did. It worked out well because G obviously missed his third lift, but that was how it was meant to go down. In a fairy tale world, he would have got there for the 4:32. And
what a dickhead.
Oh well.
So where are we at on the there now? Have you made the 4:15?
I paused it. Patrick.
And that 4:15 moved pretty well.
Yeah, it felt really good. It felt really easy. So it moved okay. Come on, Lord. There you go. You can't really see anything off the feed though. Even that bar on 4:15 is not tight.
Not tight?
Yeah. I need to be better.
So upper back tightness is what you're working on now.
Yeah.
Or,
Look, it's one little thing amongst a variety of little different things. The bar needs to come down so I can be tight. Damn, that guy's handsome.
Come on, man. I'm only in the corner of the screen.
Literally can't see you at all.
I was taking
Shut
a
up.
video.
Literally
Selfie.
cannot see you at all. Just move the bar down, which means I'm going to have to actually do some more shoulder mobility work and because every time I try to squat really, really low bar, for me, my biceps flare up, my bicep tendons flare up, and shoulders tear up. It's something I'm going to have to work on, particularly. I have pretty good mobility particularly for a super anyway, so it's just something I'm going to have to be better at. So, other than just be stronger and faster, and all the other things.
We're at the 432 yet?
It's loading. Patrick's terrible Wi-Fi hasn't paid his bill.
So rude.
Yeah, you knew what you're getting into.
Literally didn't.
So many people. Alright, so this is a 432.
Still loading?
Yeah, let's just load the 432.
Alright, so while that loads,
Yeah.
and it's loaded,
Yeah.
timing. If it pauses again, give us what you're thinking, walking out to the bar, how you're setting yourself up, how you prepare for a lift, how do you sort of G yourself up to do it.
I've had to do this so many times now that I know emotionally within myself how to flip the switch
Right.
and to just go. When I first started lifting, I lifted very, very with a lot more aggression and a lot more emotion, I'd say, which is funny because I fucking blow my lid after I do shit. What am I thinking about? Well, I'm honestly not really thinking about anything to do with the bar or the weight or anything like that. You're
not going through technique cues. You're not thinking,
not
this
at
tight,
all,
keep
not
that
at all.
tight.
You know, like I said, like that is one of the most popular questions that I get is that, what do you think about when you get under 400 kilos, or what do you think about as you're under that sort of weight? I'm not thinking anything. I'm just like, I'm redlining right now. That's what I'm doing. That's all that's going on. I'm redlining, going to attack this bar as hard as I can, because I spent the past 12, 14 weeks, trying to be perfect and nail every single rep, 10 out of 10 over and over and over again, so they can be perfect and can get to a comp and not have to think about it. As soon as you start thinking about, oh man, I got 432 in my back, you begin to hesitate. You hesitate, you're going to fail the lift, or worse, get hurt, or worse, it'll fucking fall on you or crush you. So, I'm not really thinking about anything whilst I'm on the way. When I'm walking up to the bars, that's a little bit different. I'm just in a real sort of state of focus and really just trying to get myself really, really switched on. You're going to make me tell the fucking shark story, aren't you?
Yeah.
The truck story.
Stop fucking tiptoeing around.
I tried so hard. So I don't know how this developed, but this makes sense now. I don't really know how this developed. It just was something that just kept happening as I was trying to go to like a heightened sort of sense of focus, and not all rage is basically what I was trying to get to. What goes through my head is this weird sort of situational pitch hole. I'm just going missing 432. Damn, that was deep. And you fell back like a dickhead. Nice fallback face. Yep.
Fallback face greater than bomb face. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So what goes through my head is I'm deep in water. So much so that the water's almost like a black or a really, really, really dark blue.
When are you visualizing this?
As
At
I'm
the bar?
literally as I'm
Racking the bar?
Nah.
Walking to the bar?
As I'm wrapping. As I'm wrapping my wrists.
Right.
And I'm floating underwater. And I'm just floating, just it's way too deep for me to sort of reach the surface or anything like that, so it's almost pitch black. But there's obviously sort of like a bit of a spotlight from the moon or the sun or whatever it is that's going through my retarded thoughts. And looking forward, looking ahead, something just flashes and sort of catches my attention, but I'm a bit dismissive about it, and it flashes again, like a bit of white color, or just a flash of white or a flash of light, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more, happens again, and it happens again, and then I realize that it's actually something coming towards me, and then eventually I realize that it's actually a fucking giant shark, or like a Jaws sort of shark, or a giant. You got a message?
That's cute.
How'd it go, babe? Was the message. The guy looks like he's got a beard.
Was that you messaging me before?
That would be so funny. So it's either a shark or a Mack truck, generally speaking, and it's coming head on with me.
Mack trucks, the most efficient killer underwater.
I know, right? And that's just seriously what I'm thinking. Like, all right, I'm going to go head on with whatever it is in front of me.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah.
And if you want to come get me, let's go.
Fight or flight.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that gets
Forced
me
into a corner where you have to fight.
Yeah. I'm going to answer this person.
No, you're fucking.
Did you say you've already gone through the 432?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you the shittest question ever.
Yep.
Why'd you miss? You've obviously reviewed this stuff
Yeah.
a lot. Why'd you miss?
This guy panic.
No, I'm getting his phone.
His phone, answer.
Shut up. Can't even fucking get out of the way.
Why did I miss? I missed because I was not perfect enough. And I spent all the time trying to be perfect. And 99 out of 100, I would have done that. And just this was that one time out of 100. I misgrooved it a little bit. I wasn't tight enough, obviously. I'm not going to say the shortened rest had much of an issue, but it obviously did a little bit. But yeah, I just didn't execute my plan perfectly as you need to with 432. And as you get out of the group, as you start to do numbers that are just really, really big for me, and for anyone else, whether they're a novice lifter or an experienced lifter, when you start doing numbers which are really, really heavy, sometimes it's just too much for you to get back into the groove. 432 was literally that was it. 432 was too heavy for me to muscle back into the groove.
Yeah, cool.
If that was 425, maybe I could have muscled it back into the groove, but
Yeah, cool.
I just couldn't. It was just too much.
Right, let's move on to the second lot of lifts. Your bench. So we've already touched on the fact that you're coming off a triceps injury. So at Big Dogs, you were rather impeded benching.
Yeah.
So what was it? What was the injury?
I had partially torn the long head of the tricep out of my elbow, and it sucked.
Pro Raw 7?
For 8?
Yeah, 7 or 8?
No.
8.
Pro Raw 7. It was Pro Raw 7 because it was the last Pro Raw at HQ.
Oh, yeah.
Pro Raw 8 was at the Arnold's because it was actually a short turnaround because Pro Raw was at the end of the year because this was before Big Dogs existed. So Pro Raw 7 was at the end of the year where Big Dogs normally would be.
Yep.
And then it switched from being at HQ to being at the Arnold's, which is in March.
So you had 3 or 4 months between.
There was a 5-month turnaround,
yeah,
so
cool.
he had 2 Pro Raws within 5 months.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, yeah. And I tried to bench. I benched 190 with a raggedy ass fucking tricep. And I opened with 190 this time, or 185. I think I pulled it back, didn't I? No, wait, 195.
Yeah.
I was going to open on 200, but 432 actually took it out of me, so I was like, I'm going to play it safe.
Funny that.
Yeah, shut up. And I pulled it back. Even Max looked at me. He was like,
touch tired
why?
after my 432 squat.
And then I should have benched 217, so there was the 5 kilos.
Yeah, you left a few in the tank, didn't you?
Yeah.
They moved nice.
205.
Yes, they did.
But understandable why you'd be a little hesitant. I mean,
Yeah.
you still got to pull. You're thinking strategically.
Still got to pull plenty.
Yeah, that's a good question as well. Look, strategic, I think it's often disregarded in a powerlifting comp how much strategy is actually involved with planning of your lifts. Because you want to make sure you're fresh for when it's deadlift time, right?
Yeah, well, as fresh as I can be.
Yeah.
Because you're not ever going to be fresh.
Fresh, yeah. But, yeah. So the bench.
It's one thing. It's probably one thing that is more prevalent in Olympic lifting, because there's so many issues with body weight, and numbers are jumps are so small and minute that there's a requisite to be really a lot more switched on. I'm not saying this to disrespect Max in any way, but it's we as a group need to be more switched on with this sort of thing, and we were particularly with the benches and the deadlifts. So
the bench was a good result.
Yeah. The 205 was alright.
So what were the benches? 190?
195, 205, 212.
Yep.
This is 212.
So what's happening?
I am chalking my hands and looking at Brendan Greco's flower shorts.
Interesting.
Yeah. That he bought from Saba because he can still shop at Saba.
How do they make you feel? Do they make you angry?
Really? They make you really
do they make you
intimidated sexually.
That's
blood flowing all the wrong places. It's just because you knew that camera was parked right between your thighs, right?
Mm-hmm. I really worked at my bench technique with this prep as well. Not just obviously making my weaknesses stronger, but from a technical perspective, just really looked at refining it and being better at it.
You bench with a pretty wide grip.
Yeah, sort of just have to push the bar.
I already know the answer, but is that something you adopted because of the tricep?
No.
So why do you do it?
Shorter distance to press the bar.
Yep.
Plus also tricep. Because the narrower my grip, the more triceps going to be loaded, and I'm a little bit worried about that, and I don't have that lockout strength with probably at a narrow grip, which is why we need to continue to work. Damn, I look so fucked at 345.
So you're onto your pulls?
Onto my deadlifts, yeah.
Right.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
So this is the opening dead?
Opening dead, what was it?
345.
345. Talk us through your setup.
I pull with a pretty narrow stance. I had this conversation with Pat the other night. Mm-hmm. It's just I can get myself in position at that narrow.
Considering how wide you are,
and
considering how broad you are across the shoulders, your hand grip is very, very narrow.
Yeah, I'm pretty mobile for a big guy.
That's where I got that. Yeah. We were talking about it the other night, and just looking at where his hands sit on the bar, and
well, it's a shorter distance to pull the bar, the narrower your hands are.
Of course.
It's just maths. If you can get into that position and be strong in that position, you're at a mechanical advantage, right? It's just
where are your hands on the bar in relation to the rings?
Oh, probably a hand width off the rings. Well, one of my hands width, which is pretty wide off the rings. Mm-hmm. I'm probably about a thumb's width from the beginning of the knurling.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right, so we're in second deadlift here.
Yeah, this is 372.
You're going 372.5.
So this is for 1,000.
This is for 1,000. So she's a big milestone.
Yeah.
And it's something that I know you've been chasing for a while, or you've wanted to do. It was one of your big goals.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the goals on the list of goals that I have. It was just one of the stepping stones that I'd set for myself.
So what's the mindset here, walking up to it? I mean, this is it. This is what you've trained for. You're about to conquer one of your goals. Are you thinking about that?
No, not at all.
Sweet.
No, it's. I don't know if that's. Well, I think it's a good thing. So my mind's clear, and we're just trying to attack. That's terrible Wi-Fi again.
Play through.
Yeah. And that's me losing my fucking chops.
Right, so you make the lift, obviously. You pull 372.
Yep.
What happens? Directly after the lift, what do you do, Gawain? Reenact it for us.
I don't want to wake your neighbours. I lose my mind. And that's I fucking always lose my mind.
You point, you drop the bar, you point to the lights. Why?
Yeah, because it was a milestone for me. I was just like, show me the fucking lights.
Right.
That's all. And then So top bluff.
So 3 whites represents obviously your entire lifting career, what you've been working for to this point.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly right.
And then
You're drawing.
someone gets a little emotional.
What, are you talking backstage or you mean pumping and screaming?
Both. tell us how it feels, because obviously you can give as much or as little background on this as you want, but 1,000's been a long-term goal. You've missed it on a couple of occasions, not necessarily for your own doing. I mean, obviously the injury is something that you can't necessarily prevent, but you know, it's a milestone. It's a big-ass milestone.
Yeah.
Second Aussie to total 1,000. First Aussie born to total 1,000. It's a pretty big deal. You're the only guy in the country born here that can do it at this moment. Obviously, there's a few other guys coming up that are real close, knocking at the door. But that's pretty fucking cool, man. Like, the first Australian-born dude to total 1,000 kilos. So what are you thinking?
And let's face it, it wasn't a secret going into the comp. Like, there was a bit of pressure.
Thanks, Marcus.
I wasn't going to mention a name, but there was external pressure. Like, there were one of us, you know, rooting for you. We wanted you to hit that 1,000 total. Some are more vocal about it, you know.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky like that. I have a lot of good supporters, which is a bit weird at times, particularly after the comp.
So,
which we will not talk about.
Luckily, I didn't have to bring that
I will tell you everything other than that.
up. Feel free.
So
You're going to tell us, or I'm going to tell it. So just go.
So what actually happened is, I blew my lid, right, and then
Oh, we're still on this part.
Yeah, because
You're putting the messages back.
avoiding.
I'm not going to forget.
No, we'll go back
We'll get to the
we're
messages.
touching on that shit. It's down.
This is actually motherfuckers. No, I blew my lid, and it'd been a long time coming for me. And there were particularly in the beginning. There were a lot of people that were pretty influential that said I'd amount to nothing, and I was just a flash in the pan, you know. And also particularly off the back of the fact that I spent 2 years in the US, so a lot of people,
So
a lot of haters, a lot of detractors.
So you pull the bar, you drop it down.
Pull the bar.
You know you're good. You know you've hit 1,000.
Oops.
You point to the lights, and it's a big fuck you to everyone that said
You
never going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's done.
Yeah. It's
I better reply to this dude.
I want to actually, there's probably something that you don't know about. I know I've spoken to Pat about it, but I don't think you and I have spoken about it. I had the GoPro going. So over the whole weekend at the Arnold's, I was walking around taking some footage that will probably splice into some of this and what have you. And after the lift, I walked around the back of the cage.
Oh,
I wanted to catch in the cage.
You have me out the back straight after the lift?
Straight after the
I'm
lift.
going to shank the
No,
fuck.
You
well,
made it, Cohen. I've got the footage on the
Oh, good.
computer.
It's not straight after.
It's been hidden. It's
Alright,
sort
good.
of, I was going to delete what I did. But
You bunch of cunts.
you were pretty emotional. I kind of made the conscious decision. I got a camera jammed in your face. You'd walk to the corner of the cage, and I had a camera followed you around and camera in your face, and I saw the look on your face, and I went, I'm turning this shit off. This ain't for camera.
Thanks, buddy. If that was Patrick,
You're a fucking good guy.
you're a good guy.
I am.
Not him. I don't know how you guys are related.
Just wait. Keep that talk up. See what happens. See what happens to that footage I've got.
So hot in here.
Get rid of the grill, man. This is business tough as it gets.
Yeah.
Explain.
Sure.
Like, what's you don't have to.
Man,
I don't want to go into
no, it's
deep
okay.
dark as shit, man. Like
It's okay. You know, it was off the back of me you know, blowing my lid. You know, so many people have so much negative stuff to say about me that I try to just be a genuine person to everyone. And I fist pumped.
Yeah, you got it right the first time. It's okay.
Yeah. And I don't know. I didn't consciously do it. It just all happened at once, and I screamed. I told them. I fucking told you I was going to do it, and then walked out the back, and then just couldn't control the emotion.
You went into shock.
Yeah, well, I had an adrenal drop. I don't know if you had that before, but I actually went into like a little bit of shock. So like after I squatted 400 for a double, I had an adrenal drop, and I was just like convulsing.
that was nuts.
Yeah. And that happened, and it was bigger. So I had an adrenal drop, and then all the emotion of all that stuff just hit me at once, and I was just like sobbing and crying like a little girl. And you know, it got worse with the crying because because of Greg. Because Greg ran in, he's been there from the beginning, so...
Yeah.
Fucking Greg.
It's your fault, Greg.
It's your fault, Greg, not your fault this time. Yeah. But it was really emotional.
It's on film.
Yeah, it's on film. Thanks, guys. Thanks.
It's my next tattoo. It's not my fault this time.
Yeah.
Just every other time.
Well, it was just super emotional because I've been working my entire lifting career towards that, and, you know, to have the people there to watch it was a blessing. So,
Yep.
And particularly having the preps that I did have to do it, I was just very, very emotional, very, very thankful about it. Yeah.
Back to you, I want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
You handle G,
Yeah.
right? So
With Max, yep.
With Max, what does that entail? As far as more,
You
I
better
know
be
you
nice,
make sure he's got
asshole.
his,
You better be nice.
I know you know, make sure he's got his belt when he needs it, make sure he's wrapped when he needs it, all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. You and Max are doing that. But what about
Yeah.
mentally? What?
Okay. So with G, obviously, like we joke around and we talk a lot of shit. And, you know, one of the
I didn't talk shit. Every time I call him an asshole, I fucking mean it. Piece of
G and
shit.
I have spoken about this before, and one of the big things that we both enjoy from competition or from, you know, the sort of the camaraderie you get, I guess, from the gym or from any kind of sporting club or whatever it is talking shit. The shit talk, you kind of pump each other up, you kind of, you know, it's all part of it. And he and I do that all the time. Like 99% of our conversations
Don't
is
even
shit
say
talk.
hello.
Yeah. Well, about a week out of comp, G goes dead silent. And that's more when he needs handling than comp day. So handing him his wraps on comp day it's jack shit, really. Like, anyone can hold your belt, hold your wraps, any of that sort of stuff. That's not really necessarily that big a deal or that helpful. I mean, it is, because it means that he doesn't have to, it's one less thing for him to think about. So I'll cover comp day and then I'll go back to what I was saying. So on comp day, it's really just about making sure that his focus is on his lifts.
Yep.
So Max wraps his knees. Max does the actual wrapping. On comp day at Pro Raw this time, both Dan Smale and myself were helping out. Just I always hold the top of the wrap to anchor it while Max is wrapping, just keep it as tight as we can. Between Dan Smale and myself, we were also locking his knee in place because we really wanted to crank those wraps, get them super tight. So obviously there's that. Making sure that his gear's there, whatever he needs. This year, you know, I brought some food and stuff to the comp, just like lollies and Coke, and made up some rolls and stuff, because it's pretty hard to eat on comp day. And I mean, because of what he's doing, he doesn't really want to eat. So it's mostly just making sure that all that sort of stuff is in check.
Yeah, cool.
Make sure that he's drinking water. I know that face. Deal with that later. Make sure that he's drinking water. Make sure that he's eating food. Make sure that he's doing something when he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time, you know, and he obviously he's exerting a lot of energy. He doesn't feel the best, so a lot of the time you got to force that sort of stuff onto him. But it's really just as simple as making sure that all he has to worry about is what he has to worry about, which is doing his lifts. Everything else we sort of take care of.
Yeah, cool.
And just make sure that whatever it is, we're there to make sure that we can sort of do what needs to be done. So comp day is pretty straightforward, really. But for G, he's, like he was saying before about psyching himself up and the visualizations and that sort of thing, he's very mental. I mean, everyone obviously has a mental aspect to the way that they compete in whatever sport it is. But G is the type of dude that most of the time he wears his heart on his sleeve. So he will talk, or he'll, like I said, talk shit, or, you know, it's not hard to get information out of him or to get him to talk about stuff. But a week out from comp, he goes dead silent. And that's more when the handling is, and it's just making sure that he's okay, make sure he's in the right headspace.
Yeah, cool.
Really. I mean, everyone wants to see what's going on behind the scenes, and I guess that's why the Pro Raw pit was such an attraction for people, because, you know, for anyone that didn't see the setup at the Arnold's, they had the big stage where all the powerlifting happened, and then there was that big dividing wall, and the whole warm-up area was cyclone wire fencing, so people could look but not touch and everyone's
Do not
interested
feed the animals.
Yeah, exactly. Feed the animals. Everyone's interested in that aspect. But in reality, you can see that shit going to a commercial gym. It's just people realistically just training. I mean, they're warming up. Yeah, okay, the weights are heavier, but there's nothing exciting there. It's guys squatting, it's guys benching, and, you know, guys warming up on the deadlifts. That's jack shit. But I don't even know what I was saying. Where was I going with that?
Who knows?
What were we talking about?
Just talking about the week before.
Oh yeah, sorry. So everyone's now I know. So everyone's interested. Everyone's interested in the behind the scenes of that aspect, right? And the wrapping of the knees and seeing people put their belts on. But the real behind the scenes for G is outside of comp. It's before comp. It's all the mental stuff. Yeah. Like just, you know, I went to pick him up. I picked him up on the way into Pro Raw so he wouldn't have to drive himself in, and he didn't eat. Like, you know, I brought him a coffee and some food and stuff so that he could just nibble on the way in into weigh-ins and that. He didn't eat anything, he just had his coffee. You know, the mentality completely changes. So that's more the behind the scenes stuff. That's
interesting.
That's the handling. Yeah.
So I am going to touch on this stuff.
Faggot. I fucking hate you.
The reaction
To being Hollywood G.
there's a couple of
You're a
elements to this,
fuckhead. I
right?
swear to God. This is such a fucking setup.
This is just for
This is such a setup.
I'm going to start with a friendly one.
Fuckhead.
I see it probably more than you notice it, I reckon.
Oh,
but
go and get fucked.
Go on. Keep talking.
the three of us walking around.
Yep.
Is that a new follow?
No, that's a view.
Oh, right.
Later.
Yeah, moving on. That's great.
The three of us knock around a bit, right? We go out for lunch a lot, we train a couple of days a week, recovery, whatever, and I see some of the reactions that you get. Mm-hmm. You're a large man.
Thank you.
Right?
Where are we
Wasn't a
talking?
compliment.
What are some of the reactions?
You sitting in the shower?
Nothing is standing there. Focus on there. What are some of the reactions that you've been getting? We've talked about it. You've been getting some attention after the comp, right? No, I wasn't fucking going there. Not
Yes, you were.
No. The tea room's a perfect example. Like, you're eating lunch at work the other day and dudes wanted to come up and get a photo and dudes are sort of staring and shit, that's going on.
That happens all the time, though. That happened before all this.
Yeah, but there's more now.
Yeah, there's just
People
more
are
now.
recognising it.
Yeah, it's just more now. It becomes more of an issue when I go out. Just people wanting selfies and autographs and this sort of shit. So,
Which is
then you
good.
got fuckhead mates that
great,
want to
man.
make it a big deal.
It's probably annoying for him, but it's good because he's getting a bit of recognition for stuff that should be recognised. I
Absolutely.
mean, the three of us have talked about this a million times where you go onto Instagram and there's some useless chick that looks good in a pair of yoga pants and she's got 30,000 followers and she's never done anything, or some dude who is weak as piss and looks like shit but has 5,000 followers. Then you've got this dickhead over here with the giant head
Who's handsome.
who squats
Handsome.
you know, squats 420 at Big Dogs and has 1,000 people on Instagram. Like it's
1,500, thank you.
yeah. So he's got a few new ones.
Thank you.
Little bot.
Shit.
But it's nice to see.
500 people hate you now.
It's fine. I'm still
Fucking your fault again, isn't it, motherfucker?
always. It's nice to see some recognition for the shit that he does because, I mean, he in terms of powerlifting, with his squat, he's very elite. He's at the elite with his squat and with powerlifting. So it's nice to see some people actually sort of stand up and pay attention. And I guess that's one of the good things about having Pro Raw at the Arnolds, and Marcus and Emad choosing to move Pro Raw to the Arnolds is the exposure.
Yep.
Because if you were at the Arnolds for Pro Raw weekend, just walking around the arena, like walking around the exhibition buildings, the focus was on powerlifting.
Massive, wasn't it? Yeah.
You stand there in the crowd and obviously people come and watch for a bit and go and all the rest of it, but you look out over the crowd and there's bodybuilders tanned up, that have been there for their comps. They've been on stage and they've come from the stage to watch the powerlifting. There's, massive crowds of people there that wouldn't normally go to a powerlifting meet.
Yeah.
And here they are. and they get to see the big fella and everyone else that was there do their work.
Yep.
It's really good. But sometimes you get messages from people that you don't necessarily want messages from.
You're a fucking dickhead.
So tell us about that, G. Public service announcement. Don't slide into people's DMs that you don't know with creepy shit.
Yeah. Stop.
'Cause that don't go well.
Stop.
It's just going to be the butt of a joke.
I am thankful and gracious for the attention and the lovely words that people will say to me. But the amount of weird DMs and weird fucking private messages that I've got post Arnold,
Selfies.
during Arnold and post Arnold is just stupid. I would hate to be a really good looking girl because that would be their entire fucking life.
So if you're a dude with an attractive wife, G doesn't want her.
Yeah.
If you're a dude, don't send selfies.
The amount of dudes
Don't be weak at the knees when he's lifting.
The amount of guys that sent me weird fucking shit, weird selfies and tell me they're weak at the knees when they see me lift and when they see me, oh my god. And the amount of cucks are actually a thing.
Oh, cucks are a thing.
Cucks are a thing.
Cucking all over the
No
world.
fucking idea that this was a real thing.
Mr. Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide. Mr. Cuck Your Girl.
It's actually a thing. Wow.
How many dudes are seriously willing to cuckold themselves for someone that squats 400 kilos? Like, fuck me.
A couple, apparently. A
Yeah,
couple.
just one or two.
Damn.
Oh, shit.
I'm be happy now. I'm be happy now. You watch, once this gets put out, this is going to be fucking like 20 now. Thanks, boys. Thanks.
All right. Touch on the last couple of things, mate.
Shoot.
Future. So Big Dogs 2 is the next comp, right?
Yes, it is.
Sweet. Post-comp recovery. Injuries you're dealing with now. How's it all going?
That's what I'm saying. That's like what I was saying earlier. No, I just have just some general sort of just small niggles, really, because I manage myself well. This is not my first rodeo. It's just the only thing that really has to be managed is my rest when things get really, really heavy, and that's probably just the hardest thing. And actually eating enough food is probably the hardest thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of, how do you get through the food? So
Force feed.
5,000 calories.
That's a lot.
It's a lot of food, especially, we touched on it before, 50% protein, 30% fat, 20% carbs.
Yeah.
For those that don't really do the figures, it's approximately 500 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
How do you get through it? How many meals do you eat a day? How do you break it down?
Sure.
Yeah,
people at work freak out. I sit next to a lovely Lebanese lady who just literally sits next to me. She works, and every time I eat, she's like, "You eat enough food for my entire family." Thank you. I think
because I weigh more than you.
yeah, actually, yeah. I have to break it up into really small meals, just because I struggle with my appetite, which is odd because I'm like fucking 180 kilos. But it's one thing recently that I've struggled with, and obviously recently one of the things that attributed to my body changing the past couple of years was eating, every 2.5 hours as opposed to eating every 3 to 4. I'll eat anywhere between sort of 8 to 12 meals as opposed to just 5 or 6. That's therein lies the biggest difference between myself, and you can obviously tell. And look, a lot of the time you get used to it. I see pro bodybuilders, I remember watching a lot of Jay Cutler stuff, and he was eating like 11, 12 meals a day, but you just get used to it. You just know, when you're 12 weeks out, 10 weeks out, you have to eat that much food. If you don't eat that much, particularly for a heavy week, I need the fuel to obviously get through these workouts. Then I need the fuel and the macronutrients to obviously recover. And if I don't do that, I'm not going to recover. And then if I don't do that and I don't recover going to the next workout, I run the risk of getting hurt, and I don't want to get under
snowballs.
Yeah, I don't want to get under. I don't want to get under 450, and everything snowball on me, and then I get torn up by 450.
Nothing's ever serious with you.
We do ask it.
Spider-Man.
We kind of do struggle to keep this serious.
So what are you eating? How are you making up your calories?
I don't know. You tell me, nutritionist. No, I
gave you the shit whether you eat it or not.
I do. Normally, it's just really simple.
It's clean.
Eggs, yeah,
5,000 clean calories.
Eggs in the morning, and then it's literally just steak and rice and veggies.
So your carb sources are rice.
Because I'm Asian. We're getting Asian jokes, huh? No, where's the fucking list? Asian stuff? Right,
that shit's obvious. That's too easy. So your carbs are rice, oats.
No oats.
Really doing oats.
No. I eat bread in the morning.
Sweet potato.
Rice.
Okay, so most
part of my heritage.
Rice.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, some jokes write themselves.
Yeah,
Fat sauces.
Olive oil mainly and peanut butter.
Avocado.
Yeah, but I'm too lazy to make avocado, so olive oil and peanut butter generally.
And your protein is obviously eggs, meat.
Yeah, eggs and meat generally.
Do you eat fish? You're big into fish?
No, surprisingly, because I'm Asian, I really like fish. Yeah,
fish head soup, perhaps. So chicken.
Fish soup isn't a fucking meal, right?
Well, apparently.
Soup's not a thing.
Tell your country though.
Asia, my country. Correct. My continent, Asia. You fucker.
No, you were a representative for all of Asia.
Yeah, great.
So chicken, beef, and
mainly
eggs.
leading up to a comp, it's mainly 90% beef.
Right.
I'm going through a bit of a chicken phase at the moment. A lot of my meals is chicken. But
Sick of red meat.
Yeah, and I have to make up the extra calories with olive oil and avocado and stuff. So.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, let's touch on big dogs too quickly.
Yes.
We've already talked about how you program. We've talked about your mindset. It's just a matter of improving comp by comp.
Yep.
The total's the goal.
Yep.
Who's your biggest comp?
Myself.
Yep.
Outside of that,
Don't have one. Just only think about myself.
You're just worried about
selfish.
yourself.
It is selfish. I don't pay attention to anyone else. I don't watch anyone else's videos unless someone goes, haha, take a look at this guy. That's literally it.
Yeah.
This is a sport where I need to bet on myself, and it's so simple and tangible that if the maths don't add up to their maths, their numbers, and they're better, their numbers bigger. It's that simple.
Yeah, cool.
So I don't really worry about it.
So what is the goal though, total wise, or do you want to beat that 430 squat? I mean, Odell's competing at Big Dogs too. So there's the potential. I know he had issues with his quad, but there's the potential that he could squat more than that.
He should squat more. Yep.
Is your goal to beat the Australian record, or is your goal just to better your squat? Do you want to go 1050? Do you want, like, what's the next milestone?
Yeah. So I'm
100. Obviously not at Big Dogs, but is that the next goal?
So if things went perfectly at Pro Raw, I should have gone about 1,030, but I missed those two lists. And talking to just upon reflection and the amount of time that I have, and talking to Ed about things, I really should go in the, what's that? I think it was 1,050, 1,060 sort of range was what he said.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just say 1,050.
Yeah.
That would be, I mean,
realistic.
Yeah, and it's realistic. So Ed said to me after, look, by Big Dogs, you should be looking to do this, and that being realistic.
Yeah. He said the same thing to me as soon as we went out the back.
Yeah.
It's all good stuff that you're capable of.
Yeah.
When the goat speaks, we listen, hey?
Well, when the goat speaks,
Unless he calls me dickhead.
which is
But he's
often.
fucking right.
Often.
Okay.
Yeah. No, look. Even though Ed said that, I'll be applying myself that I was going to beat that anyway. So
Yeah, cool. All right, last couple of dot points, mate, before we wrap this up.
Sure.
Advice to other lifters, all levels. I think you've touched on probably a few points that people are going to take home and go, yeah, that's the shit.
Yeah.
Have you got one gem, one word of wisdom, or?
If you're a competitor, and I guess it works for every level, just make sure you're doing this and you're enjoying yourself. You're not doing this for the wrong reasons, because there's nothing worse than having to put yourself put your body through this, and put your mind through this, and put your life on the line if you're not enjoying yourself. It's got to be, I think, something that you're passionate about. You really enjoy, particularly on the competitive level. And if you're not doing it because you don't enjoy it, you're just doing it to appease other people, then find something else. Find something that will appease more people.
It is a sport. You got to enjoy it, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like anything, footy, cricket, whatever. You're not enjoying it. What's the fucking point?
There's absolutely no point. There's no point in working a job that you don't enjoy.
Yep. All right, last one. Shameless self-promotion time, mate. How can people get in touch with you for coaching, programming?
So I don't do any. I'm not taking on any more online clients, just because I just don't feel like I can do people justice and not be there by not being there. So I have enough online clients as it is. So one thing that I have been doing more lately is a lot more workshops, a lot more self-development stuff, and that involves around obviously the lifting, but also the mental application, which we have been saying this entire time is such a major thing. And they can be not necessarily just for powerlifters. It's been for I've done it for football clubs and rugby clubs before. It just so happened that recently the injection of CrossFitters and things like that have particularly competitive CrossFitters have given the opportunity to have more of those workshops. So those are the things that I'm doing more of. I've actually just had one yesterday, which is great, for Melbourne Fit Performance Centre out in Footscray, which is great. Coach Mark's a great guy, and a very, very good strength and conditioning coach. One of the very few that I'd probably would actually back, because there are just a lot of filth. They've done an exercise science degree. They think they know what they're doing just because you've done a degree and you can't squat 60 kilos properly or teach someone how to deadlift properly just because it looks difficult or you just don't know how to, or because you think it's dangerous when it's not, if you're coaching anything, properly. So I've got that. I've got to do a small seminar in Sydney as well. I need to lock that down, but I've also been lucky enough to be booked for some seminars in the US, which is great. In about May, June, I'll be heading off to the US and doing those coaching clinics.
Sweet.
Yeah. So you can just get a hold of me on Facebook if you have any questions. Don't send me any dick pics. I'm so over that. I forward them to Patrick and he does what he would.
Send them all.
Just on Facebook or Instagram, 85G Unit, you can just DM me and not have any dick pics, which is great.
Did that just turn off?
Yep, we are good.
Okay, good. So we're back. The GoPro died temporarily, so we're plugged back in. G, sign off for us.
Oh yeah.
So how can we just briefly said how people can get in touch with you, so
yes.
Just to reiterate.
Yeah, you can just find me on Facebook. It's just my name, or get a hold of me through Pat or James. My Instagram is 85G Unit. You can just DM me without the dick pics. That'd be great.
Just one thing I wanted to quickly add to what you were saying before. So you're not going to take any new online coaching?
No.
Will you do coaching in person if people get in contact with you if they're in Melbourne? Will you? I know you want to do your workshops and your seminars and stuff, but will you take people for coaching?
I'm lucky I'm in the position where I can pick and choose. Hit me up. If there's something I could just fix straight away, then I'll just do it for free.
Okay.
But if it's something where we need some consistent work, then...
So with the online stuff, why aren't you taking more online people?
I just don't think that you can give proper coaching and real consistent coaching if I'm not there, if you're not there. That's just me.
Yeah.
It's just my belief. I know Chad has a heap of online coaches and he's capable of doing it. I just don't feel that I can give that person value.
That's something we've spoken about before, is trying to assess where someone's at based on a video. It's very difficult. Obviously, you don't get to see everything you see in person. You can't make corrections on the spot. You can't move around and look at different angles and things. So.
Yeah, people. The reality is that there's a vast majority of people that don't need a bucket ton of technical work.
Right.
It's just a lot of it is a programming situation or a mental application or just getting through the roadblocks mentally going forth. It's funnily enough that the majority of my coaching is that.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
Sweet.
Anything else you want to cover?
I'm good.
We're
Jim,
done?
you're good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. Did you want to give a shout out to your sponsors like Lift Tape?
Yes, I need to shout out Finn and Mike from Melbourne Fit and Lift Tape. also James and Ozzy Jones from P3 and the girls and boys at P3, and obviously Marcus from PTC and Emad from PTC.
Yep. So what are PTC? What is P3?
Oh,
for anyone that
P3 is
my our group of friends.
I forget these.
It's already there.
P3 is a high-end recovery center where I can do my contrast training. It's where I did all my contrast training for the last comp for the Arnold. So they have a really cool setup where you can do a whole bunch of contrast training. There's a variety of different things: vibra, wet and dry,
wet and dry therapy.
So I do my cold tubs, and they've got saunas and mag pools and hot tubs, as well as the
dry
therapy stuff. What's the new stuff that they have in there?
They've got compression pants.
Yeah, but I don't fit the compression pants. Yeah. Sorry, Ozzy, it cost you a couple $100, bro.
No, it was a zip, it just undid.
No, it didn't. It fucking popped off. Oh, yeah.
So they've got a really
cheap bastards.
cool setup at P3 in Berwick. I believe they're opening new locations.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, we're looking at new locations.
Looking
so
into
there'll be one up north soon enough, hopefully, and one in the eastern suburbs. So
cool.
But
the one in Berwick's really good. It's just near the freeway exit on Clyde Road, just off Clyde Road. Yeah, in Berwick. As G mentioned, the dry therapy is really cool. Compression pants, you sit in there, watch Netflix or watch Foxtel. Yeah. Just chill out while the pants do the work, basically. Helps with recovery and blood flow and that sort of thing. And then, the wet therapy, so ice pools, hot spa, sauna, magna pools. And then they've also got hyperbaric chamber there.
Yeah. Vibra we said that.
Vibra
a couple of little tools in there.
Yeah, cool. And so PTC HQ.
Yeah, they've been a big supporter of myself from the beginning, and Marcus have forever backed me.
Yeah.
I get to be in a position where I can train at the best powerlifting gym maybe in the world,
definitely,
and have the right people around me. Yeah,
most likely in Australia. 600 square meters of specialised equipment.
800, man.
800 square meters, is it?
It's
really?
huge. Yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, it's a massive area. Calibrated plates, specialist bars.
Yeah, exactly right.
Heaps of monos, heaps of benches, all comp gear. So if you're into powerlifting, it's a good place to train.
Even Olympic lifting, or you're just looking to get better and stronger at your sport.
Just want a good vibe and community down there.
So good gym with a good atmosphere, good guys. As we mentioned before, Max does the coaching down there.
Yeah.
So
I'm not a powerlifter and I love going down there just because good bunch of people down there. We're always helping each other out. So great place to lift.
No egos, it's just a good place to go. Mm-hmm. Cool, I think that covers it.
That's us.
Yeah, beautiful.
Thanks very much for tuning in. Camo signing out. Follow us. We'll put the link in our what was I going to say?
Instagram,
Facebook.
This will obviously be on YouTube.
Yeah. We'll put it in a little bio.
We'll probably try to put the podcast on a podcast hosting site of some description.
Yep.
This is the first episode, so if you've tuned in, thank you for tuning in. And we're going to look at doing a whole heap of athlete bios. So not necessarily news, current events, or even upcoming events, or competitions for powerlifting, but mostly people that are competing, Australian lifters competing in Australia or even overseas, I guess. But
absolutely.
Try to shine some light on the best gyms that are here and the people that are competing, and we've got some pretty cool shit coming up. So
absolutely. If you think you're good enough, hit us up.
Yeah,
we'll be happy to interview you.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Pleasure, my man.